My neighbor Karen stood on her lawn in her designer tracksuit, her perfectly manicured hands clutching her face as she screamed at the demolition crew. I watched from my kitchen window, coffee in hand, as months of frustration finally gave way to sweet vindication. The county workers methodically tore through what had once been a $30,000 custom patio that she had illegally built on my property. 6 months earlier, I had moved into this quiet neighborhood in Burwood Heights, drawn by the mature oak trees and well-maintained homes. The property came with a detailed survey showing clear boundary lines, and I made sure to review every document carefully before closing. My backyard backed up to Karen Peterson's property, the HOA president who lived in the colonial-style house behind mine. At first, everything seemed perfect. The neighbors were friendly. The streets were clean. The community had that suburban charm I had been seeking after years of apartment living. The trouble started about 2 months after I moved in. I noticed construction workers in Karen's backyard one morning laying what appeared to be the foundation for a patio extension. Initially, I thought nothing of it. People improve their properties all the time. But as the days passed and the construction progressed, something seemed off. The new stonework appeared to be extending unusually close to what I believed was the property line. I pulled out my survey documents and compared them to the physical markers. My suspicions were confirmed when I measured from the iron stakes that marked the corners of my lot. Karen's new patio was definitely crossing onto my property. I decided to approach the situation diplomatically. One evening, I walked over to Karen's house and rang the doorbell. She answered wearing what I would come to recognize as her signature look, a velour tracksuit with rhinestone accents and perfectly styled blonde hair. I introduced myself properly, as we had only exchanged brief waves since I moved in. She smiled with practiced sweetness and invited me onto her expansive front porch. I explained my concern about the patio construction, showing her photos I had taken and referencing the survey markers. Her smile never wavered, but her eyes turned cold as she waved her manicured hand dismissively. She informed me that the survey lines were wrong and that she had been living there for 15 years, so she knew exactly where the property boundaries were. Before I could respond, she stood up and said she had an HOA board meeting to attend, effectively ending our conversation. Over the next few weeks, the construction accelerated. What had started as a simple patio extension transformed into an elaborate outdoor entertainment space. Expensive flagstone was laid in intricate patterns. Outdoor lighting was installed. And then came the crown jewel, a built-in fire pit with stone seating. All of this construction extended at least 8 feet onto my property. I documented everything with photos and videos, measuring repeatedly to confirm the encroachment. The construction workers seemed uncomfortable when I asked them about permits, mumbling something about the homeowner handling all of that before quickly returning to their work. I tried one more time to resolve this neighbor to neighbor. I caught Karen getting her mail one afternoon and approached her with printed photos showing the encroachment. She looked at them briefly before handing them back with a condescending smile. She told me I was new to the neighborhood and didn't understand how things worked here. She had been president of the HOA for 8 years and knew about property maintenance and improvements. She suggested I focus on my own yard, which she noted could use some attention before worrying about hers. The message was clear. She had no intention of acknowledging the problem. Reluctantly, I contacted the HOA board via email, carefully outlining the situation and attaching documentation. The response came from the vice president, a man named Gerald Morrison, who informed me that boundary disputes between neighbors were civil matters outside the HOA's jurisdiction. He suggested I work it out directly with Karen or seek legal counsel if necessary. I couldn't help but notice that he carbon copied Karen on his response. It was becoming clear that her position as HOA president gave her significant influence over the board. Left with no other choice, I hired a licensed surveyor to conduct an official property survey. The surveyor, a thorough professional named David Hong, spent hours measuring and documenting. His final report confirmed what I already knew. Karen's new patio, fire pit, and landscaping extended 3 feet onto my property at the widest point. The encroachment covered approximately 300 square feet of my lot. Armed with this official documentation, I hired an attorney who specialized in property disputes. She advised me to send a formal cease and desist letter demanding the removal of all structures from my property within 30 days. I hand-delivered the letter to Karen on a Saturday morning. making sure to record the interaction on my phone for legal purposes. She read the first few lines before her face turned red in front of 3 neighbors who were out walking their dogs. She tore the letter into pieces and threw them at my feet. She accused me of harassment and threatened to have me removed from the neighborhood. She claimed her nephew was a lawyer who would sue me for defamation and emotional distress. Then she stormed inside, slamming her door so hard that her seasonal wreath fell off. Within hours, a post appeared on the community message board accusing me of being a troublesome new resident who was harassing a long-standing member of the community. She claimed I was jealous of her beautiful backyard and was making false accusations. Several residents, clearly her allies, commented in support, suggesting I was the real problem. But others privately messaged me sharing their own stories of Karen's bullying tactics and property violations. Apparently, I wasn't her first victim, just the first to formally fight back. My attorney reviewed the community board posts and actually smiled. Karen's public accusations and admission that she had received my cease and desist letter would only help our case. She advised me to document everything and avoid any direct contact with Karen. The next step was filing a formal complaint with the county zoning office and initiating legal proceedings for trespassing and property theft. The paperwork was filed within a week. The county inspector arrived on a Tuesday morning. I watched from my window as he examined the property lines, reviewed the survey documents, and took extensive photos. Karen must have seen his official vehicle because she came running out in her bathrobe and slippers, her hair still in curlers. She tried to charm him, offering coffee and fresh-baked muffins. When that didn't work, she switched tactics, claiming she had permits for everything. The inspector calmly asked to see them. She stammered about having them somewhere inside but never produced any documentation. He spent another hour measuring and documenting before handing her several violation notices. The violations were extensive: illegal construction without permits, building in violation of setback requirements, encroachment onto neighboring property, and failure to obtain proper inspections. Each violation carried potential fines. But the real blow came when he posted an orange demolition notice on her fence. She had 14 days to remove all structures from my property voluntarily, or the county would hire contractors to do it and bill her for the work. Karen's scream could be heard 3 houses away. She called multiple people on her phone, pacing back and forth in her backyard, gesticulating wildly as she spoke. Over the next 2 weeks, Karen tried everything. She hired her own surveyor, who mysteriously came to different conclusions than mine. She filed complaints with the county about the inspector. She even tried to get other HOA board members to pressure me into dropping the matter. But the law was clear and the evidence was overwhelming. When she failed to comply with the demolition order, the county scheduled the forced removal. Demolition day arrived on a crisp Thursday morning. The county had contracted a professional crew who arrived with jackhammers, sledgehammers, and a small excavator. They efficiently set up safety barriers and began their work. The sound of the first jackhammer biting into the expensive stonework drew Karen out of her house like a siren. She was dressed in a pink velour tracksuit with matching sneakers, her face a mask of horror and rage. She screamed at the workers to stop, waving papers that she claimed were injunctions. The crew supervisor calmly reviewed her documents and informed her they were not valid court orders, just letters from her nephew, who was apparently a personal injury lawyer, not a property attorney. As the demolition continued, more neighbors gathered to watch. Some filmed on their phones, and I had no doubt the footage would be circulating on social media within hours. Karen tried calling the police, claiming the workers were destroying her property. When the officers arrived, they reviewed the county orders and informed her the demolition was legal. She then tried to physically block the workers standing in front of the excavator until the police officers warned her about obstruction charges. The beautiful flagstone patio that had cost $30,000 was reduced to rubble in less than 3 hours. The built-in fire pit was jackhammered into chunks of concrete and stone. The expensive outdoor lighting was carefully removed and placed on her actual property. Throughout the demolition, Karen's voice grew hoarse from screaming about lawsuits, damages, and constitutional rights. She claimed this was a conspiracy between me and the county inspector.